So, hi, and welcome to beloved presenters from the Centrepiece. And today we've got for you a lovely presenter. We all know and love Chrisandra Harris, who has been on the Centrepiece and headlined in the Sacred Dance Festival here in Findhorn in 2023.
Yeah.
Correct? I
Yeah,
had to
I've
think
had
of
to
my.
really think carefully myself then what year it
Yeah.
is now.
Yes. So, Chrisandra, it's lovely to have you here with us and to just to get to know you a little bit and to get for the people who watch the centerpiece to understand who you are, who you love, dance-wise and things like this, and other presenters. And yeah, so we've got these set questions that we usually do, and we'll add a few more in if I feel with the flow. So, Chrisandra, welcome.
Thank you.
So, we'll just get to know you by going through the questions. So, the first question is getting to know you. Could you provide us with some insight into your background, where you hail from, and what factors or experience have shaped your journey thus far?
Okay. Well, I come from Derbyshire, which is countryside in the centre of England, and I was brought up very much as a country child. So we lived in quite an isolated area. I didn't have any brothers and sisters, and I had no playmates. So my early experience was really with nature, with animals, with plants outside, and that's always, I think, been core to everything that I've done since. It was a very formative experience for me. And even as a very young child, within that experience, I found spirituality. And obviously, as a child, I didn't have a name for it. And I didn't come from any sort of spiritual or religious background, but I always felt it in nature. And then I was always dancing. And I never had any dance classes as a child. I was in far too isolated a place and there was no one else there. But I always danced. I danced if there was music, but I danced if there wasn't music. I danced in the fields. I danced with the cows. I just always danced. And so I think these two things, this love of nature and this love of dance, sometimes, it's hard to know where these things come from, but it's just very innate within me. And then, sort of alongside that, my family have always been a family of travellers, and we're a very ordinary working family, but we've always travelled a lot. So my grandparents lived in Africa for a long time, worked in Africa, and my parents would just get on a bus and go to some remote place at a time when nobody was doing that. They traveled to Greece and to Italy, when people weren't doing those things. So what that gave me, I think, was an interesting culture, an interesting traveling and an interesting culture. So these three threads, really, this love of nature, love of dance, love of culture and travel, they're all things that later on I really interwove through my dance sharing and teaching, and they're really core, I think, to who I am.
Wonderful, wonderful. It's great to hear that because I hear so many people who are presenters saying this to me that there's something different about the way they were brought up and that link with spirituality and nature and the travel and the culture is very key, I think, especially to your dances, Cassandra. So thank you for that. That's a lovely insight there. And so, what initially drew you to the practice of sacred or circle dance? In your case, maybe traditional dance, and what inspired your interest in integrating it fully into your life? When did that happen? Maybe for you, as you grew older. Obviously, this is This is the next question, sorry.
Well, when I left home, I left home and went to university, and then as soon as I could, I did start to have sort of formal dance classes. So I used to, although I was very late to it, I went to ballet classes, I went to jazz, tap classes, anything that said dance in it, I went to basically, and I got quite proficient, particularly a format that was called jazz dance, which was very lively and had lots of jumping in it, and it was based on ballet, but it was a modern style of dance. And then in my early 20s, I had quite a bad accident and badly injured my knee, which meant that I couldn't do this anymore. I had to wear a knee brace. And it was in an odd sort of way, that's what led me to sacred dance, because I tried to carry on dancing. I tried to find dancing that I could still do. And then I saw an advert for something called, I think it was called Sacred Dance, Sacred Circle Dance or something. And it was 1984. So it was the first time that it had been brought out of Findhorn. And someone was doing this workshop in my local city, and I went to this workshop. And at the time, it was the dancers from tape one. So that's how, it was
The
tapes,
little tapes you used to
the
get.
little
Yes,
tapes.
I've seen
And
these.
yeah, yeah.
Someone gave me some. Yes.
And tape one was the form of this weekend. It was a weekend of dance. And from the very first dance, I knew it was like a light bulb moment for me. I just knew that this was my path and my future, because it brought together all these things that were so important to me. It brought together this aspect of nature, of culture, but underlying it all, spirituality, and of course it was via dance. So it was a total light bulb moment. It's hard to explain how important it felt to me, but I knew that weekend that this was going to be my path in life. It was a complete revelation, really, and that's never changed. I've had ups and downs like we all do, difficult times and easier times, but that core commitment, I don't think it's ever changed for me since 1984, which is a really long time ago now.
Wow, it's funny when we look at our paths like this and we come across technology that's the old technology. I remember tapes from when I was young, but I can't imagine teaching with the tapes.
Oh
You know,
gosh.
so this is a common talk that when I'm talking to other presenters, that we talk tapes, and it's
Yeah,
really
I mean, tapes were really a nightmare,
yeah.
because you had one tape, but you'd want to do dance number one and dance number four.
Exactly. So you have to rewind it all. I remember rewinding it to get a
Yeah,
favorite song. Uh,
yeah.
just in my bedroom, for example, rewinding a song. But I can't imagine for a dance session how that would be. You know?
Well, what we did eventually is we would put them on all on separate tapes.
Yeah.
So each of our
Oh, so you
dancers,
had one
we
on
would put
each.
on a separate tape, which made life easier.
Yeah, yeah,
And we didn't have many dancers. I mean, for years, I only used tape one.
yeah, yeah.
And then there was tape two. But we were quite limited in the dancers that we had available to us in
Yeah.
the early days.
We probably knew the dances much a lot more because we used them a lot more as well. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like songs in
yeah,
that respect. I think we talked to Andy about this as well, because it's like one piece of music. Getting to know the piece of music, I remember it. Getting to know the lyrics and things, you had to rewind and rewind. But yeah, thank
and
you.
one of the nice things was that you could go to any of the groups anywhere in the country, and everyone was doing the same dances because we all had the same material. So
Wow.
there was something about the familiarity and really feeling bonded with all the other groups that maybe is not so strong nowadays, because we all have a very different material and so much. Sometimes it's quite overwhelming.
Yeah, I agree. And when I think of this, I think what you're saying about this is, it's, yeah, I wonder where we lost it along the line. It'd be interesting to talk about that in the future, maybe. Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Chrisandra, for that. So we'll go on to the next question. When you got into circle dance, Uh, where did you first experience and encounter the dance, and how did that environment or community shape your understanding and appreciation of it? Could you share a pivotal moment or experience that solidified your commitment and as also as a spiritual practice? So you've kind of covered this, but maybe you could extrapolate, make that more, and talk about your spiritual experience. We're quite interested in how it became your purpose, maybe.
Well, I think I felt it right from the beginning, from that very first weekend. Sometimes in our sacred dance, the sacredness is not always emphasized, but we still feel it. Sometimes it's more obvious than others. But after this first weekend happened, I started to look for people I could dance with, because I went away clutching take one and drove all my friends mad because I said, you have to do these dances with me. But, I was looking for a teacher, and someone that I could dance with in my area. And the person I found was Sophia Hatch, who didn't live so near to me, but she was the nearest person at that time. And she just started to teach. And so I danced initially quite a lot with Sophia. And at that time, she was doing a lot of women only events. And her dances, they were still this same repertoire, really. But a lot of her stuff was about women's empowerment and about personal exploration. So maybe not, I mean, it was spiritually based, because a lot of what was happening in the women's movement at that time was around that. Um, but it was she started to build a really nice community, really, of women, and that was in Yorkshire. Um, and then through Sapphire, I met Noel and Dee. Then the three of them used to run events together, particularly residential events. So this now was sort of late 80s, early 90s. And there was a piece in the last Grapevine about one of about the events they used to run. I mean, they were phenomenal, really. Their creativity was incredible. And so for quite a number of years, I went to those events. And then I met June Watts. So June was teaching then around Stroud, so more down in the southwest sort of area. And my close friend Hazel, who I'd known since university days, who I'd also dragged through Tape One with me and got her into dancing. She discovered June Watts, and she took me to one of June Watts's workshops. And I think this was another real light bulb moment for me. So June was quite an extraordinary teacher. She taught mainly her own choreographed dances, which was so inspired and totally unique. But she was also very in touch with nature and spirituality through nature. So she had very much the same approach, I think, to what I was looking for. And she used ritual a lot. And then the very first event I went to with June, she used a very profound ritual through the dance, which was totally stunning, amazing, really, and very moving and heart opening. So June really became, for a very long time, right up till a couple of years ago when she died, June became really my main inspirational teacher, I would say.
Mm.
I mean, I've danced with, obviously, with many other people as well. And I think every teacher that you dance with, you gain something from. You know, and it's slightly different under this umbrella that we have of sacred circle dance. There's so much variation, and every single person offers something that is so unique. And I think, you know, Brant, I danced with Friedel for a long time
Yes.
as well. You know, I love Friedel's approach. It's a very disciplined approach based on ballet. It's it's in many ways the opposite to what June offers, which is a very free approach, but in, you know, that going in the same direction, aiming towards the same result, really.
Yeah.
And what I really like about Friedel is that her dances are about community, so they have complex patterns in them
Yeah.
that are often to do with interacting with different people in different ways.
Yeah.
And I find some of Friedel's dances extremely moving and heart-opening as well.
So, this goes, you're kind of treading into the next question, which is good.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
I just love the passion when we do these things. I love how the presenters just they bring themselves into the questions, which is great for me.
I think it must be your design of the questions, Brant,
Yeah,
and how
yeah,
they flow.
exactly, exactly. And so the next question is about how you feel about the form. So it's reflecting on your journey with sacred dance, with the element, with the aspect, sorry, of it igniting your passion. So I can see that you're already talking about this passion that's in you, and what's ignited it. And June Watts has obviously ignited it. I hear she was a fantastic teacher, and I never got the experience with her because I think she passed on in the next realm. Uh, a couple of years in from me, so maybe four or something like I can't remember, but so maybe you talk a little bit about your passion and what ignites that passion, just uh, going a little deeper with that would be lovely.
I think fundamentally with sacred dance, it's this expression. You know, I think my connection with sacredness is really important. And to be able to express that through movement and through dance is something that I think is very important. So I've never been a person who can, you know, I practiced meditation for a long time and always struggled with it because I can't just sit and be inward. And I find that what dance does is allows me to really become very meditative through movement. So I think that is quite core, really, quite a core principle. And there are sort of two paths really for me in dance. There's the sort of choreographed path, which we've talked quite a lot about through the teachers that I've danced with. But there's also the traditional dance path as well. And, you know, going back to the beginning with Bernard, that Bernard put these two ideas together, you know, it was such an inspirational idea to put these two different forms together, I think. So also the traditional dances are very important to me because sometimes I don't know if this is familiar to you or anyone else, but I like to walk quite a lot. And sometimes when I'm walking, if I'm walking down a very ancient path, I get a real sense of the people that have walked there before, sort of a link with not with people I know, but with ancestors, if you like. And that was something that was familiar to me as a child where I lived, and I still experience it now. Through doing traditional dances, I also get that experience. So, you know, usually it's doing dances from different countries, but I get a real feeling of connection with the people in those countries through the dances, and not just the current people that are doing the dances, but their ancestors. And of course, some of the traditional dances are thousands of years old. So to feel that connection there, which is also a spiritual connection, feels really significant, I think, to me. Don't know if that makes sense to you.
Totally does. And the thing is, with the traditional dance, I love traditional dances, and you know, you can feel the energy left over almost from the previous people who've done it even hundreds of years ago, you know. And so for me, this is something that I really I connect with a lot, and through the sounds of the music as well, the musicians and things like this, and this these cultural sounds as well. So all these little strands for me bring together this idea that we have got something from the past that's really living still. It's bubbling under the surface. I find this with your dances that you did at the festival, for example. You know, you can. There's a lot of um, energy from the past that's been brought with them.
Mm.
So yeah, I understand what you mean. Thank you for this. It's really nice to
So,
talk.
sorry. I particularly like these traditional dances, you know, the ones that involve rituals or they mark particular seasons or places or events or stories,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
whatever, because of that, because you do feel it through the dance.
Oh, definitely, definitely. When I bring, for example, a spring dance, it's you know, we're going to spring bring a spring dance, and we can feel that's it's the same feeling. Oh, it's becoming spring. You know, you can feel this in your bones of and your
Mm.
soul. You know, so. Thank you. So will we go on to the next question? Let's see if your phone, if you the flow is still there. Uh, who did you learn from? Can you describe the role of the mentorship or the guidance from others in your sacred dance journey? And is there anyone in particular whom you admire or you look up to in the field? So maybe just add a little bit to what you've already said about this.
Yeah, I mean, I've alluded quite a lot, I think, to this. You know, staying with the traditional dancers, I really like to try and learn the dances as close as possible to where they come from, because that always feels really special. So that's why I like to travel. And you know, we're presented with such a lot of possibilities here. So quite a long time ago, I decided to concentrate on Greece, Armenia, and Asia Minor or Turkey for my area of exploration. And I've danced a lot in those three countries in villages with people who live these dances. Um, so I think dancing with village dance teachers is really special. And there's so many that I've danced with, I can't really name particular ones. But because they're so in touch with their culture, their history, and their village stories,
Mhm.
when they share the dances, there's something really special about that, which I do try to bring into my teaching as well. And I do find it's a little there's a little conflict here because I'm very aware of cultural exploitation, if that makes sense.
Like cultural
So
appropriation, this type of thing.
yeah, yeah. So, you know, we can go from whatever countries we come from to another country, take a dance, take it away, do all sorts with it. And if we're not careful, we lose what the dance is about, why it's special, you know, even change accidentally or on purpose the steps.
Hmm.
So I what's quite important to me is to really respect where the dancers have come from
Yeah.
and to try as far as possible to share them in the way that they were shared to me with the whole picture, if you like, the cultural picture that's part of that as well. And always remember that these dances are part of people's culture, history, and that they're really precious to them.
Yeah, yeah. I want to just bring you back a little bit because I just thought of something. So, with this question, it was I want to know a little bit more about how June Watt, you said she was one of your influential people. How did she teach? What was it about her teaching method that was very special for you?
Um, that's quite a hard question
I'm
to
sorry,
to
sorry
to
to put you on the
answer.
spot.
Yeah. What June would do sometimes, she would pause and she would be silent for a moment, and she would say that she was making a connection to, I forget what words she would use. She used different ones, but to the essence, to sacredness, basically, to guide her with her teaching in terms of what dance she would share, and how she would share it. So I think actually she might have called it channeling. Channeling, I think, was the term she often used. And so she would take this moment to sort of connect, and then she would move on. So that's not something that I could ever emulate. I think that was something that was really special to
Yeah.
her, but made her teaching inspired, I think.
Ah, I see, I see. Thank you for that. I just wanted to ask that
Mm.
because it was something that was at the back of my head. Um, so, thank you. We'll move on to the next one. How you see the spiritual side of the community. This is what this question's about. How do you see the intersection between sacred dance and personal transformation or spiritual growth in your life, particularly to you? It's your personal story through this question.
I think I've sort of alluded to this all the way through, really, because I find that dance is an expression of my spirituality. I'm not, in a formal sense of the word, a religious person. I wouldn't put a religion next to my name, but spirituality is probably the most significant area of my life. And I find that through dance, I can express my spirituality. So it's like a really central pillar of my spiritual growth. And this spirituality, it happens both with choreographed dancers and with traditional dancers. And sometimes it's sort of obvious in the dance, and sometimes it just takes me completely by surprise. And sometimes it happens when I'm teaching myself, sometimes it happens when I'm with another teacher. And I think when it happens and you're in a circle, we all know it happens. There's a sort of moment.
Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. It's one of these things you can't emulate, you can't pretend.
No. And it's
And
really hard to explain to someone who
uh,
hasn't experienced this and who doesn't know about sacred dance what this
yeah,
is.
and even above and beyond that, you can do the things you can. It's something. It's not you can't ex explain this kind of movement if it really pulls you in and it becomes part of you. Um, then when you're aligned with it and you're in that flow of the dance, that spark, that
Yeah.
we all know, and this is, I think, is very addictive. you know,
It is
it's
addictive,
very
isn't
addictive.
it?
And
And then
that's,
when the dance finishes, if you're in silence then and you're holding hands particularly,
yeah,
and then you all feel that moment, and then sometimes afterwards I'll go, wow.
yeah. I think this is the thing, and it's a very once you've experienced it, well, for me, I experienced it and I healed, and I just want to give people this experience of this moment in time. Uh, so it's amazing. I think you talked to that question. Thank you. But
Can I just say one other thing,
you can, of course.
sort of connection to this, because one of the things that I really love about sacred dance is that people are involved in it from every religion.
Oh yeah,
But we can all unite, and it doesn't actually matter. So that's tremendously healing when you think of what's going on in the world.
definitely.
So, I regularly have circles. I mean, in my regular circle, there's someone who's a very senior nun. There's someone who's a Buddhist priest. There's several people that are Jewish. There's people that are Quakers. There's people of no religion at all
Mm.
who don't express, any formal religion, but we can all dance together and we can all experience this connection of spirituality. And I can't think of anywhere else, any other forum where that could happen.
Yeah, yeah. This is why I love it, and this has been a reoccurring thing for my life. I could tell you at another time, but yeah, and the next question is something you've actually mentioned, but I'd like to ask a little bit more about it. So rituals in dance. It's about this. There are specific rituals or traditions within sacred dance that are there specific rituals or traditions within sacred dance that resonate deeply with you? And if yes, why do they hold such a significance? Uh, I know you've talked a lot about this, but maybe there's one thing that's specifically linked to rituals.
Well, I think certainly with the regular groups that I lead, being in touch with the seasons, is
This is
core
it.
really.
Yeah.
And it just feels, it just feels so obvious that in spring we do springtime dances, and in the winter we do winter dances, and how weird it would feel not, to swap them round and not do it that way. So that's I think that notion of seasons is always reflected
And
in
this
what
is a
I
human,
like to often.
it's a
Yeah,
human,
yeah,
we all
yeah,
experience the
absolutely.
seasons, and this is
Yeah.
wonderful.
Because I think as people, although we don't always realize it now, because we live in quite an artificial world in a way, but we do respond to the seasons. So when it's in the UK and it's winter and it's cold and dark, we sort of go into a semi-hibernation, and we don't want to do very much, and we don't
Yeah.
want to go out very much. And then when it's springtime and everything's growing, we're full of energy and bounce and want to do lots of things. It's sort of obvious, really, so that the dancers would reflect what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that I often like to do either rituals or dances that reflect what's happening in the world at the time. So, we seem to go from one conflict to another in the world. And I think a lot of people find that very disturbing and difficult. And it brings up challenges in terms of, well, what dances should we do? If there are two countries fighting each other, do we what dances do we do? Like with the Russia-Ukrainian war, do we do dances that are from Russia? What dances do we choose? And it's something I've given quite a lot of thought to, and decided in the end that actually it's healing to do dances from all cultures.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. And I think people find a lot of comfort through that. So if there's things that are difficult that are happening in the world that are disturbing them, to do this sort of sharing of cultures, and peace dances that are endlessly comforting as well. So I think these are sort of rituals that are woven into what I offer a lot of the time.
Yes, I think the with what's going on in the world, this is it has to be a ritual to serve the purpose of what is happening at that time. Yeah, and we make these rituals, and they actually what's the word, support us as a group and as a single person as well, just to get our breathing space back as well. And all be with other humans is the other thing, because we need this, we need groups, you know. So
Yeah.
thank you for that, because the rituals for me are very poignant. I like ritual spaces. Style is the next question. Let's see what we're going to ask you about style. Uh, have you explored different styles or cultural variations of sacred dance? And if so, how have they enriched your understanding of this art form? I guess you've kind of explained a lot of this, but maybe add on to this something like uh, maybe you talk a little bit more about your traditional stuff and how that's enriched your life, because I hear that it's enriched your life since you were a child, but maybe you've went deeper with it. It sounds like you've gone deeper at some point with those ritual dances from the Silk Road, for example. Um, I'd like to know how that is for you, and you've been doing it for so many years, I hear. So.
It makes me feel old, Brad.
That's okay. What is it they say? Wisdom and knowledge comes with age. Something like this.
Um, I think, with the traditional dances, I find some of them are just very moving. There's a dance from Greece. It's one of the most common dances called Pogonisios, which maybe you know. And a number of years ago, I went to the region where this dance comes from in Greece and spent some time there visiting remote villages and dancing this dance. And I just find it so deep and so moving. And I started to try and read about this and read some studies about it. And there's quite a lot that's been written about Greek dance, not all of which
Yeah.
is accessible to me because it's in Greek, but what I can access. And this dance and the region that it's from is one of the earliest known areas for these traditional dances. We're definitely talking many thousands of years old, and also the music obviously is very important. They think that actually this music and dance may even have predated speech,
Mm.
which is remarkable, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Remarkable, and that some of the music was actually echoing the sound of sheep.
Hmm, hmm.
And if you listen carefully to that Pogonisius music tradition, the stuff that's recorded in the villages, it does sound like sheep. And,
That's so
uh,
funny. But it makes sense because you go, well, were we dancing before we talked? We must have been moving. We must have been.
yes,
You,
yes, yeah.
maybe that was the beginning of even speech. Who knows?
Yeah, well, there is research that's happened that seems to indicate that we had music before we had speech. That it was an innate part of becoming human, that we started to make music, and then singing followed on from the music. And obviously, with the music was movement.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think it's so fundamental to who we are as
Well, it is,
people.
and I know there's studies in Edinburgh University and things like this about stuff like this because I knew a linguistics tutor, professor guy, and he used to do stuff like this. But at the time, I was not. I was in musical theatre, so I never really went there. But this is interesting that it comes up with you because it's a very vast research area, if you know. So
Yeah, yeah.
interesting. Yeah. So, my dear, uh, we have talked about you. How do you say? Uh, so we're done rituals. We've done style. So that was style. So the future. Let's look ahead to the future. So looking ahead, what are your aspirations and goals within the realm of sacred dance, and how well sacred dance slash we'll say traditional dance. And how do you envision continuing to cultivate your passion for it in the future?
Well, I don't have a plan. I think one thing that having the COVID epidemic really taught me was don't have a plan.
Yes, you can. This question may have to change, I think, but anyway.
So just be open to whatever comes. So I think um that's what my aspiration is, to be open to whatever is coming, really. I want to travel more, but I'm feeling a little nervous about global warming and the impact of travel. I for oh 15 years now I've been taking groups of dancers to different places, to the villages that I've talked about.
Mhm.
And next year, I'm taking a group to India. I really love India. I've been going to India for 25 years, and it's not the easiest of places to travel to, but I've managed to work out a really nice dance tour to India. So I'm taking a group to India in March. But I'm thinking, because I am concerned about global warming, maybe that will be the last group tour that I will do.
Ah,
I'm not sure about my own personal travel and what I will, how I will deal with that.
mhm.
Um, um, and I've also, this sounds quite contradictory, but I've been asked to teach in California next year,
Oh, nice. This is
festival, which I've said I will do. And it's this difficult balance, isn't it? I want to respect the earth. I don't want to add to the difficulties we've already got, but I have this passion for learning the dances and traveling. So this is a little difficulty for me, and I'm not quite sure where that's going to go.
no. So maybe could you say just a little bit before I go on to the next? There's two little questions after this. Uh, so the where are the main countries that you have actually, just for people who are just watching this, and so they understand which countries you were working with in the past. So I know it's the Silk Road route, one of them. Could you maybe say more which other countries you've done with groups?
Oh, with taking groups. Gosh.
Just a quick little rundown
Yeah,
so people
I'll
understand.
probably forget a lot of them, but I've done group trips to Croatia, to Greece, to many different places in Asia Minor. Turkey is a very big country, almost like a continent, really. And I made very good friends with a man called Ahmet, who's he's the professor of traditional dance and culture at
Oh,
Istanbul University. So together with Ahmet, we've organised a great many tours to Turkey, looking at different ethnic groups in Turkey, because this is something that people don't always understand. But actually, Turkey is a country of many different ethnic
yeah.
groups. And each ethnic group has their own dance style, their own music, their own traditions. Absolutely fascinating country. And this year I'm taking a group to Georgia and to Azerbaijan.
Mhm.
So two really contrasting countries, a
Definitely is. Yes, yes.
Christian country and a Muslim
So, yeah.
country. And then I've been to Morocco many times. There's a wonderful centre in Morocco. Laura goes there too, and many other dance teachers go. So I've been going there for 15 years.
Mhm.
Um, Personally, I've travelled a lot, as I said before, in India, which northern India particularly was part of the Silk Road,
Mhm.
and through Central Asia. I go and check out places first to decide
Of
if
course.
I can take a group, because sometimes the difficulties are too much. I make the judgment it's too difficult for people to go as a group. There has to be a certain standard
Mhm.
that is and a level of safety as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So unless I'm convinced about that, I won't take a group. I'll go myself, but I won't
Yeah.
take.
Yeah, I
Oh, and
understand this.
of course, Armenia. I've been to, how could I
Of
forget
course, I mean,
Armenia?
yeah, yes.
I've been to Armenia with groups many times as well, and I have a deep heart connection with Armenia. Sadly, I had three main teachers in Armenia, and all three of them have died in the last 12
Oh my
months,
goodness, this is yeah. Okay.
which has been a huge, huge loss. None of them were particularly old, but life expectancy isn't as good.
Yeah, because of stuff that's going on there as
So,
well.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And
But
smoking is a huge thing in Armenia. Smoking kills a lot of people. It's terrible.
but I have to say you've got a wide range of countries there, so you come with a lot of great dances, which is something over the years has to be built up, you know. I understand the work that goes into this and the miles traveled as well. But this is your purpose, obviously, so this is wonderful. But so I'm just going to ask you a few other quick, maybe
Hmm.
very simple questions that people to just get to know you, just stuff that people will like. I go to get to know somebody. What's your color, favorite color? I'm not going to ask you that, but you know, uh, so it's relevant to our community. It's what I know. This is going to be a very hard one for you, but what is your favorite piece of music and dance? If you had to take one to your island, what would it be?
I can't choose one. I
Can't
just
choose
can't.
one.
I just can't choose one. Am I allowed more than one?
Or just maybe a couple then. You're allowed to tape maybe.
Okay, well, on my tape, it would be a June dance, a June
Oh,
Watts
right, okay.
dance.
Yeah, I can understand this.
Um, yeah, because June's been a big inspiration for me, and the dance would be Insider. And this is a dance that is about how we wear masks in our
Okay.
life,
I
So,
recognize this one, yeah.
yeah. So, in different circumstances, we wear different masks. And in the course of the dance, you take the masks away and you reveal your true inner self. It's a very profound dance. Um, it's a dance I don't do often because it's so profound, but it's a very, very wonderful dance. Also, on my take,
One from each, one, a choreographed one, a traditional one, and do you know?
well, I'm going to just have one more choreographed here,
Ah,
and that would be a Friedel dance,
of course, of course.
which is called Stufen.
Oh yes.
And this is a dance that I also really love because it teaches me, every time I dance this, it teaches me something. I'm one of those people, if I begin something, I have to finish it. And this dance is all about not being able to finish things, about life can end anytime when we're in the middle of anything. None of us know. And it's a very challenging dance for me because of my way of thinking. But it teaches me a lot about being in the moment, about enjoying life, really valuing every day.
Yeah, and we have to, don't we? Which is why we want to get to know you because I think this is great for people to get to know you. Uh,
Can I have can I have my traditional dances?
oh yes, you can have a traditional dance. Yes, of course.
So I would have Pognisius, which I've already talked
Of
about.
course, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And I would have well, there's two dances. There's an Armenian dance called Darane,
Oh yes, yes.
and there's a dance that is actually one of my dances that's called Synossos. And really, both these dances are about the same thing. They're about the loss of homeland.
Ah, yes.
So sometimes that can be the loss of the place where you lived. So both of these dances, Darane is about the Armenian loss of their homeland. Synossos is about the exchange of populations between Greece and Asia Minor. But it's also more generally about loss
Mhm.
and about coming to terms with loss and life continuing. So that would be my take.
It's
Brandon, thank you for letting me have more than one
But
dance.
it's a nice tape. This might be a running theme for people because I think it's a very hard question, but it does make people think, you know, what is the one of the main dances, and we can work from that when we make our tapes and when we make our sessions, of course, you know. So it's like this idea. But so the last question before we leave you, and this is what would you like to see the future of sacred dance be? This is a very important question for the whole interview because it's just this little from each presenter to give to whoever's coming up throughout the sacred dance circles. They'll be watching this and they want to know what stuff from their past people in the circles, so the ancestors. So uh, I ask you this question.
Well, it feels really important to me that sacred dance continues, you know, that Bernard's legacy goes on. And I know quite a lot of us are a little worried that we're all getting older and there's not so many new people coming in. So I I really hope that it does continue. And I think it doesn't matter that, you know, when I started, I was in my 20s. It doesn't matter that people are not in their 20s, but somehow we have to find a way to keep this going. And it's wonderful to see in South America all these young people that are really committed to dancing. I mean, I think that's a real, you know, optimistic and positive thing to see. Somehow I'd like to find a way of that happening in America and in the UK as well. So the more we can get younger people involved, the better. But it's so special, sacred dance. I would never want it to become like a mass market thing
No, no.
because because that can really, I think, work against the principles that we all hold dearly.
I think it's so difficult for it to be mainstream anyway. I think that's because it is so, it's so specialized. Um, and the ideas of Bernard are so, this is a very special way of working with dance and Friedels and people like this. Gabrielle and people like this. But I totally agree with you. We need more people in the UK as my passion. Um, but it's this balance of getting it this right, to keep the tradition and to bring new people into the tradition and be open with this because we need change, but we don't need change. So it's a bit of a situation with this, but I'm sure we'll get this. But so I totally agree with everything you've said with you for the future. Is there anything you would like to add to that?
Well, one thing that does give me hope, uh, I do also link into the Society for International Folk Dance. One of my close friends, Dalila, who is Armenian, is the secretary for the Society for International Folk Dance. And they're, in a way, they're like a sort of parallel organization to us, but maybe without the spirituality.
Yes, exactly.
Um, but they traditionally they had a similar group of people. Now that organization is dying and it's on its last legs. And that is not what is happening with our community. So I get a lot of hope from that. You know, although we tend to be an older age group, new people are coming all the time. They might be in their 60s, maybe their 50s, but they are coming all the time. So we're not a dying organisation. Every time I look in Grapevine magazine, there's lots of events and there's new teachers coming along. Lots are happening, and it's the opposite thing that's happening with the
And
Society for
and
International.
actually, it's a thing that it's even in the Balance magazine and you know, over in America, I see there is movement.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
still moving. It's sad to hear about the folk organisation, but maybe we could help them somehow. I don't know. So my dear, this has been wonderful to get your interview, and your beloved presenter. We totally enjoyed having you here at the festival in Findhorn, and I love having you on the centerpiece, of course. So yes. So what we'll do is we'll put all your information down below so people can reach you, and I just want to say thank you so much for being a
Oh,
beloved presenter, because
well,
you're
thank
part
you,
of our, like our
Brant.
family, and it's wonderful.
Well, thank you, Brant. It's been great chatting to you, and thank you for listening to all my ramblings.
I do this because I love stories. I love the stories of
Yeah,
sacred
me
dance. I
too.
love the whole movement, and this is why we do it. And I know that's why you do it as well. There's
Yeah.
a passion there, and this is very important. So, Chrisandra, thank you for being a beloved presenter. I really appreciate your time, and I can see your passion for dance, and that's why you're a beloved presenter. That's why you've got here. So, thank you so much.
Oh, well, thank you for asking me, Brant. It's been great talking to you and sharing some of my ideas.
Yes, and I'll put your links all down below, and will people will be able to contact you and come and dance with you. That's what we hope for. And I'll see you on the centerpiece very soon in the next few months or this year. And thank you. Bye for now.
Bye.
Take care, Cassandra.